Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. How are you today, Janet?
I am fabulous.
Fabulous.
Yes.
I don't know if that's an adjective or an
Oh gosh.
adverb.
I am fabulous.
Why is that?
Well, because we're about to celebrate.
What are we going to celebrate?
We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary.
Wow.
And this
okay.
is our official celebration, and we are about to pop some champagne. Woohoo!
Congratulations on our 1 year of the 60 Plus Podcast.
Well, congratulations to you too.
We didn't miss a week.
We did not miss a week.
I think that was my New Year's resolution.
It was your New Year's resolution.
We haven't even had any champagne yet.
I have not had any champagne yet, but it is being poured as we speak. And you hear the bubbles. Woo!
I never poured champagne on
I
Mike
know,
before.
it sounds like firecrackers. That sounds like somebody's going to the bathroom.
You had to ruin it. Here you go.
Thank you. Now this will be the sound of me taking a sip.
I guess she doesn't believe in toasting.
Oh, sorry. Oops. I was just making sure it was the right temperature for you, Joe.
Of course it was the right temperature. I brought the champagne.
I'm the royal taster.
You know I would never bring
I'm the royal taster.
not correct temperature champagne to
A party.
a party. A party?
A party. That's using my Boston accent. Here we go.
All right. Cheers, Janet.
Cheers. Woohoo. Congratulations.
To
Woo
us.
to us.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to actually do a year in review.
Quick year in review.
Anniversary year in review.
Okay. I'm turning the ringer off on my cell phone. It's like I've never done this before.
So here we are. We've only done it 52 times, by the way. So
Yes.
our launch was July 27th, 2023. And you ask,
And I ask,
what were the episodes about?
oh, right. So we quickly zeroed in on a handful of kind
and
of.
Joe wanted to make an Excel spreadsheet, but I
did.
put the Ixnay on that one. And instead, I messily wrote down all of our 52 episodes into our categories, or scategories.
And I have to say, it would have been a lot quicker to do it in a spreadsheet.
I don't think so. Although I am having trouble reading my writing. So let's go through and, let's not assume that everybody knows what these are about. Do you know which category had the most episodes?
I'm going to say hot topics.
Well, yes, you're going to say that and you will be correct. We had 16 episodes on what we would call hot topics, which are, things that are timely that are happening with the 60 plus audience.
Sometimes it's just when we don't know what else we're going to talk about.
Don't tell people our secrets. But we had some really interesting ones, I thought, like living apart together.
Mm-hmm.
That was a trend.
That was.
Right? On your own at 60. That's about the gray divorce. We had happy life at 60. We did a lot of single at 60, self-love at 60. Yeah, discounts at 60 plus.
That was a good one, actually.
Yes. So we had a bunch of really interesting deciding to retire, caregiving for the caregiver. So what do you think was our next biggest category?
I'm going to say guest speakers.
Correct.
Okay.
How do you know all this? I wonder.
I'm
Maybe
really not.
because you went through it with me. Okay, so we had 11 guest speakers. 11. So a shout out to all our guest speakers. And I'm going to lift some real quick. BJ, Nadine, Gina, Megan, Ashley, Sheila and Pete, John, Art, and we had Sue, Sophia, and Sarah.
You forgot Jim.
Oh, and Jim. I'm sorry,
retirement.
Jim. Yeah. So that was on retirement, the financial aspects of retirement. But we had, BJ's an author, Feeding the Travel Bug. We had an episode on the benefits of hemp. And
What is it good for?
Hemp. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Please don't.
We had Megan Fitness at 60 plus, benefits of yoga. We had the benefits of dance. navigating socials, benefits of connection, lots of benefits. I like this podcast with benefits. So that was fun.
Okay.
And then what was the next biggest category?
I'm going to say Mythbusters.
Wrong.
Oh.
Sorry, I had to take a sip of my champagne. Wrong.
What was it?
It was Real Talk.
Oh, really?
Yes. We had 9 Real Talk episodes. Now, these are when we asked 10 questions of somebody who has turned 60 or is 60 and about life at 60 plus, right? So we had 9, and 3 of them were male and 6 were female.
We got to do something about that.
Right. So shout out to Michelle and Nancy and Jean and Janet and Joe and Kim and Cindy and Scott, and I forgot one other. I don't know. And then
Are we going to do Real Talk with Janet and Joe every year on our birthdays?
I guess, but then we'll have to change the questions
Well,
up.
we will have to change the
Like
questions.
totally, completely change the questions, and it'll only be known by the other person. I
Okay.
think. Okay, we'll do that.
Good enough.
Packed. Then we had Mythbusters.
How many?
8.
Now, it's like picking your favorite kid.
Mhm.
I'm not doing that, but I really enjoy the Mythbuster episodes.
Really?
I do.
I thought you liked nostalgia.
I
'Cause
do
that
like.
was new. That was a new edition. We only had 2 of
We only
those.
had 2 nostalgia.
Yeah.
I do like the
But I still
Mythbusters.
can't say it.
I know you. Neither one of us.
I
can.
like the Mythbusters too.
Mythbuster and Mythbuster. A Mythbuster
The champagne
episode.
is kicking
I
in,
had
y'all.
2 sips so far.
Oh my lord!
Well,
You
it
lightweight.
is only 4:15 in the afternoon. We didn't even
Well,
wait
it's
till
5 o'clock somewhere,
5
Joe.
o'clock. Well, people in the blue zone.
They'd be drinking
they'd
by
be-
now.
for sure. No, it's a
start
Mythbuster
at noon.
episode. They have no time. It's like they're taking a siesta and
Mm-hmm.
having a
And then they're
little.
getting up and drinking. Of course, they're happy.
It was a Mythbuster episode that was our most popular episode.
Yes.
Number of listens.
That's right.
Yes.
And I was
no
going to mention
surprise.
that a little bit later, but
were you?
okay,
Do you
we
wanna
can
wait?
mention it now.
Okay. It's no surprise. It was actually it might have
What
been
our
episode 2,
It was our second episode.
and it was Sex After 60.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the most popular episode we have had to date. And we thought maybe we might, unless we gobble up all the time, replay it. And we could just tack it on.
Sure.
No problem. And if people want to continue to listen, they can.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. But we have some other interesting Mythbusters as well. So basically, a Mythbuster is things that they say about 60 plus people, and we bust out. So the sex after 60, oh, people over 60 don't want to have sex, right? People over 60 don't know how to use technology.
This podcast is evidence that that's not true.
Correct.
Do you know why?
Aging because you're on the board.
Because we're using the technology, Janet.
Oh, okay. You are anyway. Aging rockers should retire.
Oh.
That was a Mythbuster.
That one I
That
have
was a good
witnessed.
one.
I have witnessed strong evidence that's busted because I
Because
did
you
go to the Rolling Stones concert.
I know you did.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good.
Yeah, I know. And I was surprised.
You were surprised I went, or that it was good?
I was surprised it was so good.
There were about
Because
60,000
I saw them a
people.
long time ago and they weren't so good.
Well, that
Yeah.
was probably during some altered states of consciousness that they were in, or something.
Right. Yeah. And then I think it was because it was raining and it was outdoors.
Yeah, that's not good.
They came in on their helicopter and then they left on their helicopter.
They did the same. They did the same when I saw them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
saw the helicopter landing and taking off.
Okay. Fun.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, we did some other interesting ones too, like people over 60 can't change. We busted that. People over 60 don't have any style. We busted that. Memory fades with age.
Time travels. Time travel.
traveler.
Time
Oh my
passes
God,
more
Joe, you're
quickly.
getting drunk. He's getting drunk, everybody.
Oh, no, hardly.
God knows what's going to happen to the edit this week. Okay, so then we had some random episodes too, what I call random episodes. We had a year-end wrap-up. We had New Year's resolutions. We talked about taking the physical challenge. And we did this one, we were going to try a new segment called things that make you go, huh?
Yeah, that one
But we
didn't
only
really. Yeah.
didn't fly. We only did one of those, and then we did do the new series on nostalgia, which I think we will continue. So there it is, everyone. And now Joe is on his phone because
I
he
was,
is
I was doing some math.
one part teenager.
Doing math.
I was told there wouldn't be
I
any
was
math.
adding up the number of episodes to make sure that we got all the categories.
Well, we did.
Okay.
Yeah. 16 plus 11 plus 8 plus 9 plus 7. What is that?
I don't know. I put my phone down because I was
Because you
being
were
ridiculed.
Scolded is the word.
Yes, I was being scolded.
So anyway, it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What's the most surprising thing to you that's happened over the course of the last 52 episodes?
The most surprising to me
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't killed you yet. No, okay. I haven't physically assaulted you yet. No, I'm just kidding, of course.
Have I given you reason to even like?
Of course not. I am totally
Now
joking.
everyone knows what I have to put up with
Now
here.
all your friends are going to be like, she's not that.
Yep, that's what they're gonna say.
No, I'm just totally kidding. And how about you? What was the most surprising thing that we've been able to come up with 52? Surprise me sometimes.
It does.
Sometimes I'm like the morning of. I'm like, oh, I know. We'll do an episode on solo travel.
Yes. The thing that surprised me most is the number of international listeners we have.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about how many countries we're reaching now.
Yeah, I don't have the
It's like-
analytics up in front of me, but
20 or
Yeah.
more.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it varies from week to week, but
Yeah.
we have pretty consistent listenership in Canada. Okay, not such a big surprise, but the UK,
Like
The Netherlands?
Indonesia.
the Netherlands.
Yep, the Netherlands.
Uh,
Jenny. Shout out to Jenny.
Shout out to Jenny. If Jenny's still listening in the Netherlands, she's emailed. We've emailed back and forth.
Yes. And it's like we still need to reach more people, Joe.
Of course.
We should set a challenge.
What's the
to
challenge?
Double our listenership in the next year.
Okay, I'll take on that challenge.
Okay.
So you haven't told me what the biggest surprise for you over the past year was.
I guess, when I had this first thought, when you and I first talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a germ of an idea,
Okay. I don't know that I would describe it as a germ.
and then it germinated,
Okay.
and it actually came to fruition,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually did it. Not that that surprises me. Like, I have a lot of ideas, whatever, and I never do anything. I mean, I'm not like that. I do the things I say I want to do, but that we've been able to stick with it, and it's been an entire year, and we hired Sophia, and
Mhm.
we're going on social media, and it's starting to become a thing. We're going to start to take it on the road.
We are going to take it on the road. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, and also, I think it's not a surprise per se, but the receptivity of people, like when you tell them about it and they're like, oh, I want to listen to that. Or like even this morning, I had a conversation with one of my neighbors, and, people you tell them about these things, but then they forget. And she was just telling me that her sister was turning 60. And I was like, oh, well, we should have her on Real Talk on the podcast. And
Sure.
she's like, oh my God, she would love that, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, don't be afraid to like tell people about it, because, people get really interested and excited about it. And there's so many cool, interesting things going on in this demographic. And I feel like our original mission that we set out to, these are the best years of your life. Like, I still really believe that.
You weren't saying that like right before we started recording.
I was like, I'm so tired of getting old. No, I'm kidding. No, Joe, I was just meaning because, I have that issue. Because I hurt myself yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I just don't like how sometimes my body responds to things that I think I should still be able to do.
Okay.
Yeah. But honestly, no, I love my life.
Well, you should.
I know.
And you should stop touching the microphone like
I
that.
know. Well, I had to do that because, I was
Because she was hitting
I
the
was spending
microphone
too
with her
much time
champagne
drinking my
glass.
champagne.
I think we should drink every episode.
Great. I just snorted
I
champagne.
was just going to say, Janet just
I know.
snorted champagne out her nose. All right.
Only if we go video, Joe.
Okay. Well, maybe we could do that.
Mm.
All right. Anything else about our year in review?
No, we're...
Our year in review?
What did you just say? Our rear end review?
Year in review.
Rear end view? Excuse me?
Did you have champagne before I arrived?
No.
Okay.
I told you I'm a lightweight. Okay, so how about you? Like, what else do you have to say? Why do I always have to do all the talking? I'm just kidding. I don't always do it.
It's been a real pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.
No, it has.
We've had a lot of laughs.
I do have something else to say. Maybe
What?
I'll wait till the end. When we met a couple of years ago playing pickleball,
Yes.
it never occurred to me that we would have a podcast.
I know, right?
Right.
How random is that?
So random. I mean, just very random.
Yeah.
And no, it's been a real pleasure over the past year to do these weekly episodes. Sometimes it's like,
When you have to edit them.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I have an idea. Maybe for the second year, you could do the editing.
Oh, I think that's a terrible idea. I really, really do. I don't think I'd be nearly as good at it as you are, Joe.
Okay. Now you're just,
Pandering.
yeah. Yeah. I was going to say something else, but
Well, let me just give you a few accolades. You're an
are they
amazing.
sincere accolades?
Yes, you're an amazing podcast host, and you do a great job with the technology and the editing, and I really appreciate it a lot.
Well, thank you. And you come up with most of the ideas for the episodes, for all the topics. Those are all your idea. And so I think we complement each other.
Yes.
We rarely compliment each other. So this is kind
How
of,
are you talking about?
you don't know the difference between compliment and compliment?
Or principal and principal?
I don't know what you're talking about now. It never occurred to me when we met playing pickleball 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right about now.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yep.
So it's been a real pleasure over the past year.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to the next year.
Absolutely.
The podcast should grow and our
Yep.
listenership should grow. We've committed to doubling our listenership.
Yep. Got to start handing out those cards.
And got to beg people to like, share, and subscribe, right?
Please,
Please.
like, share,
No,
subscribe.
it really does help. It really does help.
Amazingly so, yeah.
So if you could like, share, and subscribe.
also leave us comments in the new Spotify comment
Correct.
thing.
And the new website is live.
Yes, we have a new website. And
It's-
so what's the URL?
60pluspodcast.com. So it's 60, the numerals 60, plus spelled out, podcast spelled out.com. 60
Yep.
plus podcast.
So
Unfortunately, you can't put a plus symbol in a.
I know that
in a
has
website.
been a problem with
Yeah.
our branding, but if we
If
had
only
a
we knew a
branding,
branding
expert.
person, yeah.
Do 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 do.
Janet is throwing herself under the bus right now.
Yes, I
So
am.
60 plus podcasts. It's a serviceable website. It's nothing fancy, but you can listen to the podcast there. You can see some pictures of us.
You can read our origin story,
Or
our oranges story.
all right. And anything else? Oh, Janet has just drained her glass of champagne. Mine is still 2/3 full.
Mm.
And she's holding on her glass for me to pour
It's a
more.
good thing somebody's still sober here.
Yeah, right. The guy running the board in the computer.
Right. Don't spill the champagne on the board, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention?
I just think I am really grateful to all our listeners
Yes.
and to all the people who give us such great feedback. And thank you so much. We really appreciate your sticking with us. We really appreciate your input and your ideas. And if you have something you want us to talk about, please let us know. Or if you want to come on the podcast, let us know.
Well, you have to have an idea. You could be a real talk guest, but if you're an expert in some subject that would be
Yeah.
relevant to 60 plus demographic,
Reach out to us.
sure.
Yeah, because we can do it remotely. So
It's
it's
60 plus podcast at gmail.com is our email address.
Now, is that the plus sign or
No,
spelled
we
out?
can't put the plus sign. We got to get that branding person to come in. So 60 plus podcast at gmail.com.
Yep.
The new website is 60pluspodcast.com.
Yep.
Remember the plus is spelled out, but the 60 isn't.
Right. And then when you're searching for it on Spotify, you have to put the plus sign in, or Google, put the plus sign in. So that's where the confusion begins. But that's okay. We'll get it all figured out.
We will.
And thank you again, Joe. Thanks for a great year.
Yes, thank you, Janet.
Here's to year 2.
Here's to year 2. You can't toast because your glass is empty. I can't reach you with the bottle.
Lisa,
I knew she was going to say it. I knew it. You're nothing if not predictable, Janet.
Oh, I don't know about that, Joe.
Well, all right. I think, this might be a good time if you're a relatively new listener and you don't go back as far as episode 2. Go back to Sex at 60.
Yeah. Well, we're going to tag that on.
Sure. You can just continue listening and it will just be right at the end of this episode.
Yep.
All right.
Enjoy.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. This has been the 1-year anniversary of the 60 Plus podcast. And stay tuned for our most popular episode. And it's been a while since I listened to it. I hope it's good.
I think it is.
All right.
Hey, it's about sex. How can it be bad?
How could it be bad? It's like pizza. Do you know that joke?
Yeah, okay. I never thought of sex like pizza, but okay, you might have a point.
Even when it's not that good, it's still pretty good. That's the joke. Until next week, I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.
Welcome to the 60 Plus podcast.
I'm Janet.
I'm Joe. What are we talking about today, Janet?
Well, we're going to start busting out some of these myths about being 60 plus. We've talked to people about what they are or what we perceive them to be. And there's one that keeps on coming up again and again.
What's that?
The myth is once you hit 60, you're not interested in sex anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
There's a perception, and maybe this is just females, that men think that women are less interested in sex after they turn 60. I don't know if it's true the other way around. What do you think?
I'll put a pin in that for a second. Remember, we're talking about men.
That might hurt.
We don't know what women want when we're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60. We don't know. We just don't know. So saying whether they're interested in sex after 60, we didn't know if they were interested when we were 25. We didn't.
Well, there is some differences physically,
Okay,
right? When you're
correct.
20, I mean, your hormones are bouncing off the walls. Obviously, when you're
But doesn't that happen
older-
when you're 60 too? Aren't there different hormones bouncing off the walls?
Right, but I don't know if they're the same ones.
No, I don't think they are.
I mean, there may be a physical, scientific basis for parts of this myth, but I think if we're just talking about desire, that women lose their desire for sex after they turn 60, I would say that that's pure myth. That if I look at myself, I'm certainly not in that camp.
What about your friends? Do you talk about it with your friends?
Well, we don't kiss and tell, type of people. But no, yeah, I mean, that's where this thing came up, was talking to my friends about that. Just like dating, too. A guy will perceive that you're a certain age, and then they kind of find out that you're over 60, and maybe they're thinking that it's not going to be as exciting as they thought it was going to be. Now, is that a bad perception that I have or that's been created? That's where the myth comes in.
I think men might have the same concern. There might be concerns that men can't perform as well.
Well, and yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's easier for a guy to say, well, they're over 60. And like, if I date a woman over 60, she's not going to want to have sex. That's kind of an easy out. I don't know.
Are we looking for an easy out? I mean, don't we all have goals involved here? That, I mean, let's assume that.
Yes, but there's a range of them, right? There's a range of goals, right?
Correct.
As it relates to sex. So do your goals change after you're 60 as it relates to sex?
Well, when you're younger, I think a lot of time when you get a little more serious about dating and whatnot, I think you're looking for a life partner, whether it be marriage or a committed
Or you're just
relationship of-
looking to rip each other's clothes off.
Well, I said when you're getting more serious.
Right. That's the range right there,
Yeah.
right?
But when you're older, maybe you're just interested in having companionship and affection.
And maybe it's less about the act of sex and more about the level of intimacy that you're looking for.
Agreed. I think that's a good way to look at it. So, what can we do to dispel the myth?
Well, first, I want to go on record that everybody I know who's over 60 still likes to have sex. So,
I thought you didn't kiss and tell. I mean, what are you talking about with your friends?
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's also ERT, right? Hormone or HRT or whatever it is, hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
You know about that?
I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I don't know.
Right. So if
I
a
don't know
woman's
much
taking
about
hormones, I mean, there's that aspect of it. Again, back to the science and the physical
it.
science.
And
of
why
it.
would she be taking hormones? Does that relate to menopause?
Well, when you get older and you're postmenopausal, you lose your estrogen, right? You lose your happy hormones. I think they also are related to sex drive.
Is that why a woman might be taking hormone replacement therapy?
I don't take that, so I don't really know. But
Okay.
I guess it can be recommended for one reason or another. What I'm suggesting here is that there is a physical aspect to this, right? And there may be some manifestations of getting older where you do lose your sex drive. I mean, it's the same thing with men. They lose their testosterone.
I don't know that you lose your sex drive. It's diminished, maybe.
Yeah.
And everybody is different.
Yeah.
But so I think we're talking in generalities here.
Yes, we are. And that's really hard. It is. But that's the physical aspect. What about the more
Emotional and
exactly, and the connection and the
softer kind of-
closeness and
yep.
the romance and the intimacy and the touch and all of that? What level of hormones are required to want the benefits of those things?
would the old expression "fake it till you make it" come into play here?
Are we actually busting this myth? I don't know.
I don't know. No, but I think we're kind of exposing something. I'm making air quotes. Exposing.
Very. Oh, no. Not
Air
in the
quotes.
studio. We
Air
are not
quotes.
exposing in the studio.
No.
I want to go on record here.
Is it getting warm in here?
Yeah. Woo. Maybe we should dim the lights after all.
I suggested that, and you said put the kibosh on that. So I'm looking at a website. What is this website? It's a healthcare website, and it talks about some of the myths of sex in older people. One of the myths is older adults don't find each other attractive. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's
Well,
true.
again, what is the definition of attraction, right? There's that first look attraction, and there's the attraction that can develop over time. And as a matter of fact, I remember reading something about this. You know that first glimpse love,
Love
right?
at first sight
Love
kind
at
of,
first
yeah.
sight. It's very,
I think that's
passionate
a myth. I
and
think that's a myth.
well, it's real in the sense of back to the science of it, right? There is this surge of
Dopamine. and-
all this stuff, all these hormones that go, crazy, and you think you're like falling madly in love. And that level, however, is not sustainable.
No, it's not.
And what they found was that if you are just mildly attracted to somebody, but then you grow close through other means, personality, intimacy, relationship, trust, respect, whatever all those great things are, humor, having fun, all those wonderful things about relationships, is that you can reach that same level slowly. It's a slow build, and that is sustainable.
Agreed.
So attraction then becomes something that can be lifelong, because you're always going to be attracted to that inner light, if you will. And the outside shell is really less important.
When you're older and you're single, 60 plus and you're single, how do you meet people? If you're interested in having an intimate relationship, what do you do about it?
Well, I think that's a separate podcast, but
It is.
what I'm interested in is, let's hop to, you have met someone,
Okay.
and now at 60 plus, are the rules of the road different? When do you make that leap? If what I was just saying is true, where it's a slow build, can be just as powerful as that initial, I want to rip your clothes off. When do you make that transition?
But is it different because you're 60 plus?
I don't
would-
know.
I don't know either. I'm only recently 60 plus. Well, in the last couple of years.
We don't even want to really admit that. No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't care.
I love being 60 plus.
But I think that if you've been with someone for a very long time and you're no longer with someone for whatever reason, it's hard to understand. There was a relationship before, perhaps, and now there is not, and you're trying to develop relationships with other people that are different. How do you read signals? We're all out of practice. I'm out of practice. I don't
Well, I
understand
understand like it's riding a bike.
it. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. When you haven't been dating or developing a relationship with someone else for a very long time, you might need training wheels to carry the metaphor forward.
Right. Or back to a tricycle.
Or back to a tricycle. Wear a helmet.
Yeah, I don't really know what the answer is. I think that it is an individual choice, clearly. I think that both women and men are all going to be representative of that range of possibilities from, just I'm going to have a series of one-night stands, whatever, I'm 60 plus, I'm still sexually active, to I'm waiting to have another meaningful relationship because my last one took time, right? It took time to build. It's TikTok. How do we expedite this? When do we expedite this? If it's a range, what is the sort of average view of that, navigating this for the first time again at 60 plus?
Everybody's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that I'm more capable of, and it's not evident right this moment, but being more articulate and asking questions and having deeper discussions with people.
Yes, I have favorite questions like, what's your relationship like with your mother?
Okay. Do you
That's-
really ask people that? No, do you?
Well, I might not ask it directly, but
Why?
you listen about that.
What do you learn from that question?
Oh, just what the relationship is with. I mean, that's the first woman in your life, right? An important woman in your life.
Okay.
God, I can remember going on a date and the guy was just talking about how much he hated his mother, and I'm like, okay, I think it's time to go.
Okay.
But I think that's a really important, and vice versa, right? What was your relationship like with your father? That's the first person in your life of the opposite sex, and I think it's kind of could be a revealing question, but I don't know. There's other revealing questions. When was the last time you had sex? That would be
a very revealing question.
Okay, so wait a minute.
So
I want to
August-
get back. Hold on. Time out, because I don't want you to ask that question. What was in that article you were referring to? You started to talk about what this article was saying about the myths of having sex.
All
over
right. So
60.
it's from ByramHealthcare.com. The 8 most common myths about sex and aging. Myth number 1, women lose interest in sex as they age.
See? This is what I'm talking about.
Well, it's a myth.
Right.
I think that menopause can be confusing for men. They don't understand
Now,
it.
listen, if you think it's confusing for men,
Well,
it is confusing. It is confusing because there are crazy things that are happening and you don't necessarily understand that it's your hormones that are changing drastically and can harm your sex life.
okay.
Thankfully, it's not forever.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And I think men I know are more sensitive to
women's emotions and where they're coming from and how they're feeling than they may have been when they were 25.
Let's hope.
Again, from the sample of men I know, I think it's a relatively common kind of maturity that we reach.
Right.
Where, when
So assuming somebody matures
assuming
and their emotional intelligence goes up.
So if a woman is postmenopausal, they may make assumptions that aren't necessarily true because they don't understand what menopause is. They don't
Right.
understand the changes that a woman has gone through. Kind of mysterious to women too. Maybe
Yeah, you're not yourself. And you
We
think,
should-
oh my God, I'm going to be like this, Well, and again, varying degrees, right? Some women, I talk to a lot of women about this actually. Some women sail right through it, never have a hot flash, never even know it happened. And it's just like one day, you're postmenopausal. And
And
other women,
Anshu's glasses would steam up, like literally her glasses steamed up.
yeah. I mean, oh my God, you could feel like your head is on fire. I've had other women say that they think that it led to their divorce.
Really?
Yeah. That they were having such a tough time and there was no, as you say, understanding, and just they really think that was a factor. So again, it can go to extremes. So what's the other myth in this
Well,
article?
I think this leads us to something that maybe we should talk about in a future episode is maybe we all need to understand menopause more. I don't understand it. I don't understand what I have a general
yeah, I think that's the
understanding.
50 plus podcast, but
But you're postmenopausal at 60
yeah,
plus.
Yeah,
and
yeah. There's one thing that most people don't understand. You're perimenopausal, and then there is this moment in time when you're menopausal. And then once you haven't had your period in a year, then you're postmenopausal.
Okay.
That's just terminology. But,
It is.
But the point is that at a certain time you're postmenopausal, then your symptoms are going to start to hopefully wane. But I remember talking to a woman who was like having hot flashes when she was 80 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
So again, it can really differ. I assume that's true for men too, in this whole idea of diminishing sex drive and testosterone levels. I'm sure that can differ from animal to animal.
So you just said a word that kind of struck me, and maybe we need to kind of reframe this. You said symptoms. That's not a good word to use, I don't think. It's changes, but symptoms imply some kind of disorder.
No, not necessarily.
No?
Maybe symptoms isn't the right word, but what are you potentially experiencing? Is
Okay.
that a symptom? I don't know.
Okay.
A symptom of hormonal loss, is basically what we're talking about, right?
All right.
So-
Myth number 2 from ByramHealthcare.com. After 50, men can no longer perform. A myth.
Gosh, yeah.
At 50.
Gee,
No.
that's really going low.
It's really good. Yeah. And it's not true for many men, but for some men it is true.
yeah.
And there are things that you can do about that. They're medications, and maybe you just have a different kind of sexual relationship.
Well, that's the other thing, right? What's the definition of sex?
Myth number 3, having sex can be dangerous when you're older.
What?
Well, okay, so yeah, I kind of scratched
What
my
if you
head on
like
this
fall
one.
down the staircase when you're doing it?
Stay
in
away
the
from
stairwell?
open staircases. I think that's a good rule of thumb when you're 25, too. All right, so if you don't get regular exercise, is strenuous sexual activity dangerous?
You're going to have a heart attack. Well, that happens, I guess.
Okay, well,
But,
a lot of people say,
Have a
I
heart
want to
attack
go
on the
out doing what I
pickleball
love.
court, too.
That's true. That's true. So don't have sex on the pickleball court.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not true. And again, this leads to something else. Get out and get some exercise. Do something to.
When you want to be sexually active, you should have a regular exercise program.
And don't do it in an open staircase or on a pickleball court. All right, myth number 4, back to menopause. After menopause, women don't get aroused. I hope
Not
this is
true.
not true. I hope this is not
Totally not true.
true. Okay. But it might not be the red hot kind of passion for some
I mean,
women.
how much does it take?
I don't know. How much does it take?
You're aroused,
Okay.
Let's move forward.
Okay. So we're just busting myths, like just saying it's not true, and that's all.
Yeah, that's all we have to say.
All right.
Take it from us.
And we already we're going to get the explicit rating on this podcast.
I know, right? Ooh, how exciting.
We already talked about this. Older adults don't find each other attractive. I think that's not true.
No.
I certainly don't
Absolutely,
think it's
100%.
true. I will say, and I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way,
Uh-oh.
but what I find attractive has changed.
Well, again, I think it comes more from the inside. I hate to be, you
No,
know.
I absolutely agree with that. And again, I think at least among men I know who are more mature than they were at 25, including myself, you look for that. Where maybe when you're 25, you're not looking.
You don't really care.
You don't really care. You just want what you want, and well, that's
It's
enough.
more about the physical and less about the.
All right. So myth number 6. I don't know if this really applies to this podcast. Adults in nursing homes should avoid sex. We're not at that stage. It's 60
Okay,
plus.
well, that's going to be the 70 plus podcast. I think. Well, there's a whole thing about
There's like
sexually transmitted diseases in nursing homes,
yes,
right?
Yes. And from what I understand too, because women outlive men, there's the ratio of women to men.
Yeah, 10 to 1.
So men are very highly sought after in some nursing homes. I think
Something to look forward to, Joe.
If I make it that far. All right, I'm not going to talk about myth number 7. And older adults don't have time for sex. What? No, what is that? I don't even understand why that's a thing.
If anything, we have more time for sex.
Well, that's what they said. In fact, at a certain age, it seems like all we have is time. And it doesn't take hours out of the day, so there's no reason to associate age with inability to schedule sex. I think scheduled sex is fine, but unscheduled sex is pretty good too.
I think it's better.
I agree. I agree. But, if you are pressed for time, you can...
Schedule. I can pencil you in.
I can fit you in for 12:17 to...
after my nap and before dinner.
All right, so have we busted myths? Or have we just
I don't know. I really
revealed
feel
myths?
like we have.
So bottom line is 60 plus people are still interested in sex. They still find each other attractive. They still should have sex if that's what they want to do. But I know people...
we can redefine what sex is. We can redefine what attraction is. We can redefine everything about it.
And again, we're talking in generalities.
Yes, of course.
And it varies individual to individual. I've known people in their 30s and they just weren't interested in sex. That's okay for them. It's not okay for me, but it's okay for them.
Yeah. And, again, I think this also gets to cultural trends and isolation, the isolation that we've experienced through the pandemic, through online activity, rather than person to person, skin to skin, touch to touch.
That's important, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Why?
That it's in person?
No, the skin to skin kind of contact is important.
I think, again, there's some science behind that. I remember reading this article about when your child would hurt themselves and you kiss their boo-boo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's something that's emitted through the lips that actually does heal.
Really?
Yeah. So that's maybe why
Sorry,
kissing...
kids, that I never kissed your boo-boos.
But that may be why kissing always feels so good. So there's science behind this,
There is
right?
science
We're
behind it.
humans. We're meant to be
we're
connected.
animals of a sort.
Yes, we are definitely animals, and we're meant to be close. That's how we survived, right?
We're social and
procreation, and we
Pair
had to for
bonding
the
and all that.
survival of the species.
well, at 60
That's
plus,
inherent.
we're not helping with the survival of the species. It's just
We're just trying to survive.
so that brings something to mind. Does that change women's perception of sex where there's no fear of pregnancy, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about pregnancy. You don't have to worry about a lot of things.
Such as pregnancy is a big one.
So I can remember when I went through menopause and I wrote this little thing about, okay, am I still a woman? What is the definition of a woman? Are we just meant to be this vessel for children? So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. And that's great. Again, this is an individual thing. What do you worry about? I guess if you're living in a nursing home, you have to worry about venereal disease.
If you're interviewing nursing homes for a loved one, ask the
Check
question.
the policies.
Yeah, check the policies. All right, we've busted a bunch of myths. I think we may have risen some questions for people that they may want to answer for themselves.
Yeah, and of course, you should always feel free to respond to these episodes. Give us your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas about this. And all you have to do is contact us at 60pluspodcast.
At gmail.com. It's
At
60
gmail.com.
plus podcast spelled out because you can't use a plus sign in there. And tell us what you think about this. And if we busted any myths, if we raise any questions for you that you hadn't thought about, or if you have some thoughts on...
Or our stories.
Or if you just
we love
think we're
stories. Yeah, you can tell us that too. We're not too sensitive.
All right.
So anyway, I think it's a great subject. I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk about sex. How about you, Joe? Were you?
I was
happy
like
to talk-
talking about sex. It's in my top 3 subjects to talk about.
Good.
Food,
Okay.
food is another,
So-
and I can't think of the third.
So
right
we
now.
may be talking about this again. No.
I hope.
So yes, that was our first myth. We've got other myths that we want to bust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, going forward. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to try to do this once a month. We're going to have like a myth that we're going to bust. So that's the other thing that people should write in about. If they have a particular myth that drives them crazy and we can spend some time busting it, we'd be happy to do that. So please.
60 plus podcast spelled out at gmail.com. What's a myth that you've heard about, concerned about being 60 plus, that you'd like us to bust or confirm even? So send your emails along and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Take care.